Welcome back. Shout out my nigga F. Welcome back. I'm back to fall in love. All right, so let's dig this. The business of the heart, right? Have you ever noticed when you're dealing with intimate relationships, as far as actually any of them, any of the important intimate relationships, they all revolve around seemingly financial terms or terms that regard economics and currency. Um, let's start with the basics. Like you got some people who think they're looking for unconditional love, right? But from what I've learned, the only love that is unconditional typically is from, I'll say in between. I can't even say in between because the child still experiences based on conditions. Like child loves the parents because of the nurturing, the nourishment, and protection. You know what I'm saying? It's a result. But typically, a parent to a child is unconditional love because they are the only. A child is the only thing that didn't have to do anything in order to produce that love. You know what I'm saying? Like all they had to do was exist, and it automatically garnered a certain amount of love to a degree. And not saying all, but that I believe that is the only realm in which such unconditional love can exist. Like, and you can argue that the existence is a condition, but no, I'm talking about as far as doing something, that something being received or perceived in a particular way that brought pleasant, uh, pleasing ideas, feelings, comfort, things of that nature to another person. You know what I mean? Um, that's the only time it doesn't exist. A child didn't have to dress a certain way, treat you a certain way for you to love them. As soon as they were born, it pretty much automatically loved you. You pretty much already decided I will fight the world, go to war with the world for you, type of deal. You know what I'm saying? But when we meet people in other aspects of our lives, it's based upon conditions. You know what I'm saying? Especially if any type of relationship is built. So like based upon your mind frame in that day might determine whether you'll even be receptive to making a friend or meeting a person. That's a condition. How they dress, how they smell that day will determine whether you're going to entertain them on a serious or what type of level. That's a condition. So you meet people based upon quote unquote conditions, and you accept them based upon pleasing or what you deem to be pleasing conditions, and yet you want them to accept you outside of those. You know what I'm saying? Or somehow see you to be more than that. However, that's the foundation. You know what I mean? And you may establish a person to be more than that. However, when the foundation is met and you are this way, and then you deviate from being that way, it's somewhat of a breach of contract, so to speak. You have breached the conditions of the contract. So even when the term conditions, unconditional, things of that nature, perpetuity, because y'all always trying to trade forever. You want pussy. You want to trade pussy for perpetuity. You know what I'm saying? That's another contractual, economic, or monetary, financial term. Um, so you got conditions. You got perpetuity. You got investment. People feel like, I don't want to invest my time in, something that they feel like is not going to bring some type of guarantee. That's another financial term. You know what I'm saying? Like, but when you're dealing with life and you're dealing with people, there are no guarantees. You know what I'm saying? So even if you are making these investments in a person, it's in good faith, which is another contract, a contractual term, um, another business term, appreciation. A lot of things we do for the people that we love, we want to be appreciated for, or we do them out of appreciation. Appreciation is the gain of value over time. You know what I'm saying? That you can add value to a particular thing to make it appreciate. Like the same way you uh will build out your crib to make an increase in equity. You know what I'm saying? That's making the value appreciate. You know what I'm saying? Or that has to do with it. But see, that's not only just maintenance. You know what I'm saying? That's dealing with investment as well. Not just maintenance, because maintenance is keeping it at the functioning practical level. You know what I'm saying? But to make it more, that means you're putting a certain amount of investment in it. You know what I mean? So when you're dealing with relationships and you're investing, not just time and effort, but your growth and your ideas, and you're setting goals, and y'all are meeting these goals and becoming bigger and gaining more and expanding, you know what I'm saying, together. That's when the relationship itself is appreciated. You know what I mean? And you begin to appreciate each other. Well, you might begin to appreciate each other more if you're in a certain frame of mind, because you got some people who have expectations off the rip, and no matter how much you do, they kind of feel like it was supposed to happen. So, they're not really not surprised, but they don't appreciate it because they expected it. You know, um, you tend to appreciate things a bit differently when you don't know they're coming or don't expect them to come. Um, what else we got? We got conditions, perpetuity, we got investment, we got appreciation, we got trust. Let's deal with the trust. You put things in the trust for people to accumulate more value over time. But the thing about trust in relationships is you don't know you can't trust somebody until they show you you can't trust them. Like, that's how trust works. Like, it's not for the earning. You know what I'm saying? It's for the losing. You know what I mean? You give a certain amount of trust, and a person, what a person does with that determines whether you want to give more. But you got to take that sacrifice at first and just trust them a certain amount based upon what you can afford to lose. You know what I mean? And when we're talking about afford, we're talking about time, energy, effort, emotionally, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's the loss that you're risking when you're dealing with trust, or when you're dealing with these type of businesses of the heart in general. So what else we got? Investment, appreciation, trust, um, value. The term value. You know what I mean? Itself. Of course, it's going to get translated into more of a quality concept when you're dealing with people, rather than a quantity of actual, you know, units of currency. But the currency that we're talking about that is being transferred back and forth in between these businesses of the hearts is attention and time, energy, and all of those intangibles. You know what I'm saying? Well, actually, it all depends, because you got some people who could give a fuck about the intangibles. You know what I'm saying? If you're not producing something, physical, you know what I mean, that they could, show to their girlfriends, like, this is what you do for me, like, the proof is in the pudding, then, Your intangibles is neither here nor there. It's got to be a balance of both. You know, and I've experienced, you know what I mean. You know, the reality of both. You know what I'm saying? I've had, moments where like I might have been up. You know what I'm saying? So like, whatever you want type of deal is like, is not a thing. You know what I mean? And then I have other moments where like I might be down and like all I can do is give you, something of some sentimental value. And that shit will not keep a motherfucker. I'll let you know that. No matter how how thoughtful and creative and heartfelt that shit is. You know what I mean? It just is what it is, man. People, we need things in order to survive. You know what I mean? And that's on every level, not just talking about food, clothing, and shelter. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about, the things that you need to satiate your imagination, the things that you need to satiate your desire, the amount of attention that you might need in order to satiate your lack of self-esteem if you have any, or insecurity, and then you got the work that you got to do on your own, you know what I'm saying, that another person can't fix for you, can't fill for you. Those holes that they can't fill for you, that shit is real out here. So, I don't know. It makes me tend to wonder why we don't go into relationships with the same fine-tooth comb that we will, go with our business sense or our business acumen. Like, it should be just as important. You're making promises, you're making deals, you're making agreements with people for the rest of their, I don't know, whatever y'all are agreeing upon. But I think those contracts, whether they're verbal or whatever the case, they should be set for certain periods of time. And I think we would get more out of them if you were to say, me and you, we've been dating, we find an affinity for each other. Let's try to do this thing and let's give it a 2-year mark. You know what I'm saying? And, we'll revisit it in 2 years. And if we haven't progressed any, or, if we're not satisfied with where we are in 2 years, then we can end it and, decide, how we're going to, break even if that's the decision. Man, I don't know, break down the terms just like you would in any other deal. And then, if it is good, then you say, okay, you want to re-sign for, let's re-sign and see if we can do it for another 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And if, in between that 2 years, I don't know. You know what I mean? We need to try things differently. I think it'll be fun. You know what I mean? Because then you're putting so much shit on the table, and then you actually have the respect of the other party, showing that you actually, are considering what they bring to the table, and you're not taking it for granted. And because you guys have a goal in sight, I think you would maximize your time together a little bit differently, as opposed to when you link up with somebody and presume y'all going to be together forever. You kind of always think you have a second chance. Like, you always think there's tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to fixing things or changing certain things, you may not be as proactive, or you may not be as prompt into responding to a problem, because you think there's always time. But when this thing has a shelf life on it, you might respond a little bit differently. And I don't know, man. Just some thoughts, food for thought. Yeah, that's it. In the meantime, so get back at me. Peace in a real way.